But firstly, the economy. Now, it's interesting, I say the word economy, and almost instantly I can see your eyes glaze over. The economy, we're not interested. But it's actually about how we live. There was a headline that I saw that said about what 2025 holds for the Australian economy. The headline said what 2025 holds for the Australian economy in terms of property prices, rents, and the cost of living. And all three of those things matter to us. Now, I'm going to try to explain something that I would normally not do unless I had Ross Greenwood beside me to explain the hard words. But the Australian Bureau of Statistics has just released figures showing that the Australian economy grew by 0.8% in the 12 months up until September. Now, that is the slowest and lowest rate of growth since the 1990s. In other words, our economy is growing very slowly. But at the same time, our headline rate of inflation is 2.8%, and what's called the underlying rate of inflation, I think Ross calls it the trimmed mean, because he uses big words like that, our rate of inflation is 3.5%. That's inflation up here. That's the growth of our economy down here. That means things are going to be difficult for those of us who live in this country. Things will become more expensive, harder to access, and more people will be struggling. As you look ahead, I mean, you've got an economics degree. When you look ahead at 2025, it'll be a tough year, won't it?
Yeah, it will be a tough year. As I said, I never said I was a good economist, but I think before we look at what the year ahead will be, like, I just want to say, how did we get here?
Yes.
And the thing that really annoys me is that so many of these problems are entirely self-inflicted. The growth issue, we've had the opportunities for serious economic reforms in this country for over 20 years, and no politicians have had the courage to do it. Not since Howard's GST has anything seriously been done. We keep cheating growth by importing more and more people, because that's a great way to get top-line GDP growth without really making the economy more productive. You add on something like net zero, which is just an easy way to hamstring your economy and particularly raise energy prices, and it makes you wonder, are the politicians genuinely interested in the well-being of our people, or are they interested in potentially something else? Same thing, by the way, is happening in the UK. It's happening in all of Europe. This isn't just an Australia problem. And it really just makes me a bit depressed that when we'll see Trump come in this year and we'll see the handbrake go off that economy, it's going to be very stark, the difference between Australia and the US.
Can I ask a question, either of you, about this? Do you think that COVID was the final nail in the coffin, or do you think that, like, how our governments across the West, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, do you think the way that they handled COVID has played a huge part in why we are suffering so bad now? Like, what came first?
Well, COVID made them spend more money. And when government spending rises, that creates a problem in the economy, doesn't it, Will?
Yeah, it does. But also, COVID got us comfortable with the government solving all of our problems. You know, in the past, the government would provide limited services to the people. They'd collect tax, and then that would be basically the remit of the government. But then, in COVID, we got comfortable with the government then becoming the income arm, with actually giving us money.
It was easier to stay at home and have the government to pay you than work.
It was easy.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and in fairness to our politicians, I don't think we have got our heads out of that headspace. We need to say, you know what, the government isn't there to provide money. The government is there in a very limited capacity, which means over the next 5 years, if we're going to be serious about our economy, we need to cut back spending. You know, Abbott tried to do it briefly, and you know what? Everyone in Australia revolted, and so maybe I wonder, do we need to have an economic catastrophe before people take this seriously? Maybe we do.